So nice
And
to see all these lovely faces on our snowy day here in Colorado. And today I'm really excited to have um, Brigitte with us. She is a friend of Bethany's who's newer to Colorado, but has been here for a hot second, right? And a wonderful nutritionist that's going to share some great information, answer some questions, and then we're going to talk a little bit about an upcoming nutrition program that we're planning. And at that point, we're going to unmute everyone and get some great feedback and some great ideas from you all to hear more about your questions and thoughts and what you're hoping to get out of a nutrition program as we move forward with some of that planning. So, all right, with that, welcome everyone. And Brigitte, please, I'll turn it over to you and we'll
thank
get
you.
us started. Yeah, feel free to
Yeah.
introduce
Well,
yourself more. Sorry.
yeah, I will. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I just want to introduce myself a little bit so you know who I am. And one of the things that always comes up, where's my accent from? So I can tell you I'm born and raised in Denmark. And I just grew up in a family that always, my mom and grandmother always helped, all about food. So that is actually my approach that came very early in my life. So just here in the United States, I have been working for about 23 years with as a nutritional therapist and functional nutritional therapist, as a GAP practitioner and a certified health food specialist. And it's just, my life is all about food. I do believe that what we
Nick,
eat
grab the mail.
has an impact in our in our well-being, because it's something we do every day, right? So that's what got my interest early on. So yeah, so then I have been working as a head chef in a vegetarian plant-based restaurant in Seattle, and I have been a personal chef, and I have been working. I had a private practice for 5 years in also in Seattle area, and I've been doing cooking classes, nutritional and culinary classes for over 22 years. In a organization in also in Seattle, because that's where I ended up when I came here to United States. And I've been doing online classes and also food delivery. So I've been all over, because when life changes, circumstances changes too, and I'm just kind of flowing with it. And when COVID and everything shut down, like nobody was going out to take any classes or anything. So I actually reached out to some of my clients and I started to deliver food to them. So it's like I just like flexible as much as I could be, right? So this is just a little bit about my background. So as a chef and a nutritional therapist, there's a wide span of things that I can actually focus on. But I have narrowed it down to kind of teach people about plant-based food preparations to create superfoods. And because I believe that with the proper preparation techniques, you can actually enhance the food actually becoming a superfood. Also, in terms of the digestion, we know that our gut, 2/3 of our immune system lies in the gut. So if the gut is happy, our overall body is pretty happy. So that has been my approach for quite some time. And being a chef, I love to create my own recipes. And so I'm a lot in the kitchen creating, and also the clients that I have had, then it's like, okay, what is their specialty, and then I will go in that direction and create something for them. So yeah. So over the years of teaching, I have actually found I probably say 3 groups of people that is coming to my classes. And one group is that they come and learn and they just go home and implement. There's another group of people that comes, they learn and they don't take it home with the best intention of actually doing it. They don't develop it at home because we know how life is just taking this. So, oh, I will do it tomorrow, or I will, and then tomorrow will be next week, and so on. And then the third group of people that I also come to my classes, that they just love what I teach. They love what I do, and they come to have community and to eat good food, and that's it. So I think we all are in different categories, but my heart is really for trying to get people back in the kitchen, acknowledge that what we eat, because it's something we do every day, and also our food environment, our lifestyle is something that we can have a personal influence on by having some good goal settings and some good, I will say, support. That's where I probably will come in, to kind of help people moving in the direction they would like to see themselves go. And so one of the things that is on my heart is that, well, how can I get the people that is like, they want to learn it, but there's like, when they have a question, it's like, oh, I cannot do it. And then they kind of give up. And so I thought about developing, this is my goal for 2024, is to kind of have a mix of a online foundational principles that people will learn, and then either depending on where people are at, look in geographically, we will come together, and then we will learn the skills that we have learned, implementing them, and have it fellowship and community and eat and cook and just have a good time. Because when we look at food, and it has always been a thing that we gather around food, we celebrate with food, no matter what you think about, it's always about food. So that's something that I thought maybe would be something that might work also for your community. So since that, I can go in many directions, but since my heart is on teaching people how to get more plant-based food into their diet, I know that people eat all different kinds of food, and it's much easier to maybe eat a piece of meat because the cow has done its work, right? As a vegetarian or a plant-based approach, you kind of have to put things together, like what the cow is doing for doing the meat. For it's just like an example, right? So I just want to kind of get people back in the kitchen to teach them about the superfoods. So I can give you a couple of topics that I have been teaching for many years. It is like mastering the foundation of fermentation. We know fermentation is so good for us. Why? Because of it creates some of the good probiotics that is very good for our gut health, and it also have a lot of prebiotic, which is the food for the probiotic. So there's many categories of fermentation. We probably know it. You know it already. There's wine, there's beer, there's cheese, yogurt. They are something that is definitely probably common known to people, right? So there's sour cream is also a fermented products. And if you were going to do this like with a plant-based, well, then it's a little bit different approach to it. But you can also ferment legumes. You can ferment nuts and seeds, creating like fermented bean dips. And definitely Japan, they have something that's called natto and miso. That's something you can ferment too. And then you probably, I don't know if you've heard about it, like sauerkraut, kimchi. That's something that um, that's one of the things that I really started doing. I mean, I have been making my own for, well, I started in my mom's kitchen, right? So I kind of grew up with it. But mastering it for yourself, there's something about that you're nurturing your own body, and you can also save money for doing that. And that's one of the things that people are really, really interested in learning that. And so I don't know if you know about kombucha. Kombucha is a drink that has been coming more and more in. Well, you can also make your own. You can make your kvass. It's also a fermented drink. Rejuvelag is a very enzymatic drink as well that is really good. You can make fizzy sodas instead of having the carbonation added and the sugar. You can actually make a fermented drink that is like, when you open it, it's like it just almost goes everywhere. And I love that bubbly thing. And that is actually, you can do that with a natural fermentation. So you can even do like sauces and dressings, and condiments can be fermented too. So I will probably say this, there's probably not many things you cannot ferment. And I also look at it in another way, that when we do the fermentation, something happens to the product, something happens to the food that we are fermenting, and it actually create in that category is called the superfood. First of all, it is making it much more digestible. It is breaking down the nutrients, and it is actually producing actually even more beneficial things in terms of vitamins that is in there. So I'm a big fan of that. I eat it every day. I drink it every day, and I've done it for many years. Other topics that I also also like to teach is more like a detoxification. And what is detoxification? Well, I see it in the way that for shorter time you can eat a specific diet that can be like helping you to detox. But a detox can also, we think often of our internal environment, but actually our external environment is even as important, because there is over 200,000 known chemicals that is in our environment today. So being more aware of what we have in our household is very important, and that can actually just in itself create start a detoxification when we remove certain products and add other things into it. For example, the bathroom, toothpaste is one thing, or even lotion, soap, all of that. It has an impact on our environment internally, because often it is created with all. Have you seen some of those shampoos or some of those things? I mean, it's like a list of, like, I cannot even pronounce all these ingredients that is in there. So I'm so happy to say that there is a movement of using more natural components and going back to more of the basic. And we don't have to get all these chemicals into us. But when we don't know it, we don't know it, and we cannot change it, right? Even furnitures has a lot of chemicals in it, because they don't want us, if there's a fire, they don't want the furniture to burn, right? So they're putting things in there, and it's just interesting observation. And so so I think that it's a good topic to discover and to go in, because not only that, there is 5 groups, like the 5 macronutrients that we know is like, one of them is water, protein, fat, carbohydrates, minerals, and vitamins, right? But in each of those categories, we always have a choice, um, or maybe we don't, because we're not aware of it. But it's like what we choose in those categories, we can actually have some that is really health promoting and some that might be less health promoting. So bringing an awareness to those 5 categories, even in that, is a discovery, and the body can greatly benefit from it. So then I also have for many years taught a class is called Cooling Inflammation with Food. We know that inflammation is one of the primary triggers for any unbalances that is going on in our body. And so be aware of that, what food to choose and what maybe to stay away from. Um, but you see, all of these, they go together, right? Inflammation, cooling inflammation with food goes together with detoxification. I have another one, a topic that I often teach is like taming your sugar beast. Well, it's finding out, sugar. What is sugar? We'll go into more because we have all these kind of sugar alternatives to it as well. But what happens in our system when we actually, in our body, when we consume it, and what happens when our glucose is actually rising, and all of this, it's just, it can be like, oh man, I have to learn all that. No, we take one thing at a time, and I believe that when we just take one step at a time, and we take our food as the foundation, the body is a miracle in itself. Giving it the right raw material, it knows what to do with it, and it can create a more balance in our body. So we actually have a better, we might be happier, we might be have a different outlook of life and our circumstances. And that's, I think that's really what it's all about. So yeah, so that was my little spiel here. So what I would like to know from, first of all, if you have any questions, and then also I would like to know your interest in, if I'm going to come on and work with you in the community of, what is it that you would like to see?
So most people, everyone's on mute, so feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. So just to give a little more background, we are planning a nutrition program with Brigitte, and our initial first session, since she's a chef and a social butterfly, is to have um, about a 2 to 2.5 hour get together where she does a cooking demonstration around some of the things that she's just discussed, where everybody joins. You get the knowledge and sort of the instruction in the cooking and why you might want to add this or try that. And then we'll all eat together as well. Um, and then from there, we would set up potentially some other smaller conversations, either in person or virtually, to kind of build on what you initially learned and see how that's going for you personally at home. Um, so this is kind of an opportunity for people to ask their questions around maybe what they really want to learn about gut health, Parkinson's, and food. And I know everybody is very different and has very different needs.
Stuff coming in.
But feel free to ask.
Don't worry about it.
I'm interested in fermentation, that we can make fermented foods ourselves since they're superfoods. That's a good place to start for me.
Great. Anyone else have thoughts?
Well, I guess one of the things that I'm concerned about is I don't think that I'm eating enough protein in my diet. And I'd like to learn more about that. You know, what foods should I eat? What foods should I add to my diet to provide what I need? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything then about plant-based, you know, like what plant-based foods would provide me the protein.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I need to know more about protein, but protein that's easily digestible so that it doesn't interfere with my medication.
And sometimes that's just a timing thing, right? Giving yourself the 30 to 60-minute window.
Yes, and so easily digestible so that it's not taking a long time to digest because it's a timing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is actually where fermentation can come in, because if we can so on like pre-digest food, that means when you eat it, it takes less time for it to break down. And then when you get the right enzymes, the right probiotic, the right gastrointestinal juices, that is like the digestion, what is actually needed for you to break it down. That's where when I had my practice, I did, one-on-one, and I still do some one-on-one, but we can actually do a group one-on-one, right? But there's a certain common things that it is good for all of us to know, and there's certain supplementation that could be beneficial to actually help digest the food that we eat, so we don't feel that we have a block or a rock in our stomach after we have eaten, right? So that's things that we can definitely talk about. Absolutely. Great.
And I know other people have brought up like intermittent fasting. Does anyone have questions about, and I don't see him on right now, so maybe or how that could be beneficial?
So that is actually if I can speak into that, Meredith, because that is actually a topic that is very dear to my heart. I have been doing intermittent fasting for over 8 years myself. And in the professional health and health environment, it is coming in more and more and more and more, because they see the benefit of intermittent fasting. So where I feel strong about the intermittent fasting and what I can provide is that, we have doctors that is teaching why it is so, what is the background of all of that. And what I would, if I was going to work with like a group with it, is that I will provide you information, but what I will do, I will take you by the hand and say, okay, this is how you get started. And just because it's a matter of learn to listen to the body again, and then learning the principles of how you can actually safely and get into that intermittent fasting. And if there's somebody here that doesn't know quite what it is, it's about like eating in a certain window, and in that window you eat, and then outside you're not eating. And it's just an amazing tool. But a lot of people are afraid of like, well, I cannot eat, and what does it mean? But you do it with where you are at, And I know that, medication and you have to eat with certain medication and all of that. Well, all of that you just have to put into consideration, right? But I'm not a doctor, and you will have to work with your doctor, or we can collaborate, because I don't have that expertise. And I will say, I just come from being a happy camper in the kitchen, wanting to show you different things that you can do with food or even without food, right? Intermittent fasting is also like what happens to the body when we do not eat. And it's very fascinating. Yeah. One of the topic that goes in under this is and that is one of the things I would like to give you today is, again, look into how much water or liquid you're drinking. Because often if you feel you have a craving for something, it might actually be your body's signal that you need something to drink. And I have found that probably most people are dehydrated because we don't get enough water. And then we'll say, well, I drink 3 cups of coffee, right? Well, we have to learn that coffee is actually something that for it to be metabolized, you have to drink even more water because it's like a diuretic, right? So that is one of the things that I will go in and take on as one of the first macronutrients, even from protein, right? Simply say, okay, let us find out in terms of the water and hydration first, because it is so foundational. Because if we start to change a diet, if we start to change certain things, often what happens is the body is reacting in a good way, as saying, oh, it might start to shed certain things, and you will get into a detoxification. But if you don't have enough liquid, or if you're not hydrated enough, some of those what do you call it, anti that needs to come out of your body, it won't come out in the same way if you're not hydrated enough. So I cannot talk about enough the importance of hydration. And if I can give this to you for something for today, is that start your day with water, and drink probably most of your liquid in the first half of the day. And the reason for that is that if you get into too late into the afternoon or even into the evening, you might have to go out in the middle of the night, and your sleep is going to be affected by that. So, and also for working with intermittent fasting, is that when you drink, it helps your body feel full, and you can actually widen the window of where you're not eating. So, for example, I drink most of my liquid up to about noon, 1 o'clock, and then I have my first meal. But when we talk about intermittent fasting, I would like to share, but not today, share my story about how all this happened, because I did not know I was entering intermittent fasting. It was something that I felt I was just going that direction. And this is over 8 years ago that I started this. But it's very, thank you, Method. I have such a hard time saying your name with my tongue. American, you have your words out here, and in Europe and in my name, we have it down here. We're creating the words from here. So yeah, very good. Any other questions for what you would like to see? Yeah, Diana?
Yeah. I originally thought this would, okay, you're saying a lot of stuff that's for everybody. Is there any kind of diets or anything specific to Parkinson's that we should eat, not eat, whatever? I know protein, but are there any hidden proteins in any foods that we might not know of? Or are there any diets that you know of that are better for Parkinson's?
So if I can address that as a functional nutritional therapist, is that again, we go back to the foundation. And when we are establishing the foundation, the body's ability to digest means that you might actually be able to utilize the proteins that you are eating. So getting the digestive juices moving, getting the foundational elements set, it's amazing to see what the body is able to do. Yes, there might be certain food we have to, we can focus on, but again, overall, all the 5 macronutrients are important, but it might be more a selective of a more healthy macronutrients that we should focus on in the diet or lifestyle. Diet is one thing, a lifestyle is another thing. So if that makes sense.
What's the difference between diet and lifestyle?
A diet often is something that you do for a shorter time. A lifestyle is something that you are actually adapting and you're living it. So the foundation for me would be to be able to unlock the nutritional value in the food that we eat. And food is not just food. There's different categories of food. If think about it this way, when you eat something, no matter what you take in, you have to digest it. The digestive process takes a lot of energy. And so if you are digesting something that is actually causing you to have less energy after you're digesting it, you will come into a deficit in your body. But if you eat something that is actually after it's digesting, you are actually have more energy, because that's really what we talk about in the body. It's all about energy. It's all the metabolic processes in our body. And it's all about how much energy we have, because our body thrives on energy for every system in our body. So that's why if we start to focus on more nutrient-dense food, meaning that when you do digest it, you're actually coming out with a surplus. And then when you have a surplus, I've been teaching kids classes for many years, and I think about this way. If you think about a bank account, right? When you have a surplus, then when you are in a deficit, you can actually go to the bank and take some money out. It's the same way, if you have a surplus in your body, with something are coming towards you, then your body might need more and take from the bank. And that is fine, because you have something that your body can provide. But if you're a deficit, then you will just go into what we're calling more degeneration. So food, I will say, food and awareness and lifestyle can be a major player in how our body can function day by day. But we also have to know that, from where we are, depending on where we are in the scale of health, it might take a little bit longer for certain people of us, right? Depending on where we are. But we have to start somewhere. And it's like, building a house, the first bricks has to be laid, right? We don't see the house in the beginning, but little by little, brick by brick, we see, oh, it's becoming a house, right? We don't see it in the beginning. So
and I think what's tricky is sometimes we try to make some of these things overly complicated, when honestly, whether we have Parkinson's or diabetes or we're just getting older or whatever it is, we're trying to lose weight. Honestly, it really does come back to doing some of the basic things that when you kind of sit back and look at it is really more like common sense. Like I just need to eat closer to nature, more whole foods, less boxed and processed foods, healthier
Just
ingredients, right? Um, there's not a ton of research out there on Parkinson's and nutrition, but there's a few things that have been coming out, especially in more of like the dementia Alzheimer's world, that we can translate into this conversation on Parkinson's and nutrition. And the theme really is to decrease inflammation. Well, how do you decrease inflammation? It's everything that Birgitta was just sharing with us. Improving gut health, enhancing the microbiome of your gut, getting more whole foods, more of a plant-based diet. And meat is okay, but where do we get our meat from? Is it mass produced or do we get it from the local rancher that grass-fed his cattle and then butchered it himself? Um, so some of the things that Brigitte is kind of bringing up are consistent themes that we see not just in Parkinson's, but other areas. And again, we don't have to make it overly complicated. I think the tricky part is like knowing what we should do. Like, oh, I probably shouldn't eat all those Cheez-Its too. Okay, how do I make this kombucha myself? Or how do I make this sauerkraut that I like myself? Or how do I just put a few more of these little, how do I make it easy, right? Like, how do I put it in my day-to-day habits in life? Like, um, simple tips and tricks, like I might get this meal to prepare and then I can just enhance it with some extra vegetables. Um, so, so that's kind of where we're hoping to meet you guys, helping get a little background, a little education, but then also translate that knowledge into simple things you can do at home, or together as a group to really put it into place and feel the benefit.
So you're talking about that. So that will be like group, community, and having fun, right? I mean, that is such a huge aspect of life that we don't feel isolated, that we actually have a community. And that's something that we share. And then having the fun. I mean, why go in the kitchen and be grumpy, right? And make some food, right? And it's like, you're just like in grumpy food. I can only say I'm so blessed, right? Because I love to be in the kitchen, and it has been since I was a little girl, right? If I was grumpy, I went in the kitchen. My fun came back and my happiness came back, right? So if I any way I can transfer that into you, and also again, making it a game, right? It's like one of the things that I would love to do is I am not the all knowing. I only know what I know because I have an interest in it. But if we work as a community and finding out, okay, like we can go and research certain things, and then we can come back to the group and say, what did you find? And have a conversation about it, because I think that is very important. You see things that I don't see, right? So,
And food's really social, so we want to make this social as well. We can gather together over the table and share. And then some of the thoughts that we had is that when we do have recipes that you might go home with, or whether that's something that you ferment or it's a recipe that you cook, is that at our Coffee and Connects or another meeting time that we bring food together to share at that time and discuss, and then take on another topic that we might be like some of the things that we've asked questions about here, like how to beat inflammation, what's the best diet, getting more protein. So when we're kind of combining those two pieces together.
one thing I actually didn't mention, that is a sourdough and sourdough, working with grains and sourdough and gluten. Typically, what I do gluten-free sourdough, just because of the grains, kind of the way they have hybridized the grains. But I think everyone loves a piece of bread, right? So, well, how can we actually make that piece of bread like a superfood, right? And enjoying it, knowing that what you eat is like it's going to be so good for you, and that is where sourdough comes in. So that is a huge thing that I would love to teach as well, right? And then, but it goes in again in the category of fermentation, because it is actually a fermentation process that happens there. It's just with the grains.
That all sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. Does anyone have other questions or interests in nutrition that you want to ask about now?
She's covered it for me.
Okay. Out of curiosity, you can give me a thumbs up or a wave. How many folks would come to a 2-hour cooking demo where you also get to eat the food after? Give me a little. Okay. Sounds good. I know, Joe, it'd be a little hard. Maybe we can shove it through the camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to, but it will be difficult from Virginia. Yeah.
It would be tough. If you're not local, it's hard, but okay.
Yeah.
We
Well,
would
we
always,
might have to ship some food to you then.
right.
Oh,
And
that would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
we
be
can always
great.
share
Yeah.
recipes too after. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sauerkraut sounds great. So
Yeah.
So many different neat things we can do. Sometimes we don't even, it can be really simple too. So, okay. Well, does anyone
Yeah.
have other questions for Brigitte? This is a great opportunity to pick her brain. I know, don't everybody just speak at once. Okay.
She's covered it, I think. She's covered
wait,
it.
oh yeah, just a quick question. As a basic way of getting started, if we're, I won't be able to attend the in-person meeting, but is something like the Mind diet or a Mediterranean diet, those are probably good rules of thumb to get started with, right?
Yeah, you can. Again, let me put it this way: if it sounds good to you, there might be something in it for you. That's the best way I can say it, because we are very individual. So if it's something you are, it's again that is about listening to our body, right? That innate, that still voice within, and it's like, what is it saying? Why am I suddenly standing here? What is it? What is it? Right? So I will say, if that sounds good to you, you can go that direction. But what I'm actually doing is, and I'm not going into a specific diet, I'm going into the foundational things that you can, with any of those foundational preparation techniques that I would love to share, you can put that into any Mediterranean, any of the categories of meal plans that you know out there. It's just the foundation of unlocking the nutrients in the food that you eat. That can be, yes, I'm focusing on the plant-based, but we can even do that with the meat and fish. There's preparation things you can do to actually break it down more, so you get actually a better nutritional profile out of it. I mean, that's really what we're talking about, because the more nutritional profile you get and the more you can digest it, the more energy you have in your body to do all these metabolic processes that is needed for optimal health.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. And again, as Meredith is saying, it's not complicated. I find today, because we're so inundated, it's like, I will never succeed, right? It's so complicated. I don't understand it. It's like, well, you know how to put food in your mouth. We just have to maybe do some tweaking, not changes, some tweaking of the food that you put in your mouth. And it also has to taste good, right? So, and again, wow, if we can do that with a community, So again, where you, so be you, Joe, if you are, we might even be able to have a Zoom when we do the classes. So you feel part of it, you can hear it and you can ask questions. Unfortunately, we cannot Zoom food into your mouth, right? But at least you feel you're part of it, right?
Yeah.
So there's many ways we can do it. It's amazing the last 4 years, what has actually happened in our community, how in one way, we got more isolated, but I think we as human beings, we need community. We need each other. And that is where the Zoom has come in. That's where all these meetings have come in, right? But there's nothing like shaking a hand or just being the same room. Zoom cannot do that, but they're doing a great job, right? So, yeah. So, well, I would like to just, say that I do, if you are interested in some of my information, just you can text me. I can give you my phone number, because what I do create some, since I'm new out here, it's like I'm trying to establish myself a little bit, but I do, I have done the meal delivery in the greater Seattle area. And when I moved out here, and all my clients back in Washington State, what I did, I actually created a line of gluten-free and dairy-free sourdough baked goods, and I mail that to them. And some people here also kind of asking for that. So it's definitely something I can offer. And then I also do some dinner, kind of fun dinner parties. And I also offer to, if people have a group gathering in your own house, I come and we have a dinner party at your place. That's so small groups. And yeah, I can also do some consultations, even though that will say my focus for 2024 is to be coming online, and you only have 24 hours in a day, right? So but anything that you feel drawn to, or now you've seen me or heard me, maybe get a bigger sense. If I can help you in a way, how I can come alongside you, I'll be happy to do so.
Thanks, Brigitte. I'll be sure to share her info and resources in a follow-up email, like we usually do. And then today's recording will be available on our website, so people can take a look and reach out to you as well. And then we'll be sure to follow up with you guys in the next couple of weeks as we finish some of the planning for our upcoming nutrition session and series based on your feedback with more of this details. So
Perfect.
yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. It's really nice to see everybody here. And there is another webinar on gut health that was recorded last year with Martha Carlin, who's also just a big proponent of gut health and Parkinson's. So be sure to check that out if you want to hear more about what we started to talk about today. So just from a different source. Yeah, and we'll see everyone. If we don't see you at Tai Chi today, we'll see you on Monday, hopefully. Okay. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.